Alright, all my Dirt Dauber fans, I have a confession to make. I've actually been working on the FJ40 a little bit over the last week or so, and I did not record what I was doing. So what I'm going to do today is kind of update you on what has happened and what is still left to do, sort of the next big steps. But before we can do that, I've got to clean this place out a little bit. Got to move my car out of the way, so I've got some working room. Let's do that. Alright, so let me give you an update of what's happened in the last couple videos and what you may have not seen if you've been watching my videos. So this quarter panel came off. The previous owner did not do a good job of installing these quarter panels, and he actually, instead of butt welded them up, he slapped them on top and just welded them along this ridge up here. He also did not do any of the spot welds along this top lip up here and this fender well. On top of that, there was a ton of surface rust underneath here and both sides, and this support, there's a brace that goes back here on the back all the way across, a support piece that was bent and rusty, and so he had not done a very good job installing those panels. One last thing that was pretty bad shape was this housing, this fuel door housing right here was not put on correctly. It was kind of crooked, and so I bought a new one and have been slowly working on these panels. So as you can see, I started to weld this panel back on. I cleaned up the underside, done all that. I have attached this fuel door, which it still did some spot welds on the top. I need to spot weld some on the bottom down here to get that thing fully attached. One other thing I've done that I did not record is the underside of this had a ton of undercoating on it, which I did record cleaning that off. There also was this tar mat here that I think one helps with heat and also helps with just sound and vibration for the driver. There's not one on the passenger side, I don't believe, on these vehicles, but there was one here, and so that took a lot of time to clean off. And it's a tar-based material that's pretty thick. There is some videos out there where guys take dry ice and they'll put it on the tar mat there and freeze it and then pop it off with a screwdriver. I didn't try that. They'll take dry ice and water, or I think actually rubbing alcohol, and the chemical freezes it, turns it brittle, and it'll crack right off. What I did was I used a heat gun and just a scraper and was able to kind of heat it up enough to where it softened up, and then as it slowly softened up, I just scraped underneath it, peeled it off, and then the last thing I did to get the remaining residue was just some paint thinner and wiped it down with a cloth, and it came right off. So what are we going to do today and what's next for this thing? We are going to hopefully finish welding. I've got to do all the spot welds on the inside here, both along the tire well here, fender well, wheel well, and then also underneath. So I've got to attach all that. I've got to finish grinding and welding this panel across the top here. That's got to be done, and I've got to get this fuel housing completely attached. After that, I'm probably going to get a little bit of this filler off just to help with the sandblaster or the media blasters, because that stuff's hard to get off with the media blaster. And I'm just going to do some general cleaning up of this tub, and then I'm going to put it on this trailer right here, take the sides off of my trailer and mount it on there, strap that thing down, and hopefully get this thing to the media blaster this week. He's going to media blast it for me, clean it really good, and then seal the whole thing with an epoxy primer. Once he does that, I'll get it back. I'm going to paint the underside and mount it on the chassis back there. So once we get it mounted on the chassis and the underside is painted, then I can start working on these quarter panels as far as putting a little filler, straightening this body out, and then one other thing I need to do is I'm going to delete this cowl vent here. This tub is from probably an earlier FJ40, probably a 73, 72, somewhere around there. The original tub for this FJ40 did not have a cowl vent, and it doesn't really do anything. It's not operational. It's really just for looks, and so it doesn't open or anything. So I'm going to, the sandblaster will clean in here and epoxy seal this, and then I'm just going to cut a panel, a flat panel, probably out of one of my fenders like I did with that other patch panel. I'll make a video for that. And I'm going to fill this in, weld this all the way around, ground this down, and just delete this. I may or may not cut this out from underneath the dash. It really doesn't do much. There are some drain holes that won't even be used if this is sealed, but it doesn't really do much underneath here, and it doesn't really take up that much room. Let me flip my camera around so you can see under there. So I'm put my camera up under here and see if you can see. There is that vent, cowl vent box. It doesn't really take up much room, and I don't think it's in the way, but I may go ahead and just cut it out of there anyways, just because my OCD knows if there's something down there that I'm not using and it's not really serving any kind of purpose, then it just makes my peace of mind a little better to know it's not in there. So we'll see. I'll wait and maybe make that decision after the media blaster, or I may just do it now. Who knows? All right, let me show you a couple other things that we have done that I don't think I've got on video. Now, as you know, if you've seen my other videos, is we've got this chassis here that we've been working on. Let me turn my camera around again so get a better shot. Okay, so the chassis is about 90% done. There's some few little things we need to do. I need to order some bolts that we couldn't find in the bags from the previous owner. So there's a couple little bolts like this Springer hanger bolt I got to get here. There is, I need to do the brake lines, and that's going to be a pretty big job to run all the brake lines from both front and rear up here to the front. We also need to finish up the engine, just stuff like got to put the spark plug wires on, got to run the fuel lines, got to put the water pump. I haven't ordered a water pump yet. This particular model did not have an oil cooler, and so for some reason I guess the water pump without the oil cooler is a little bit harder to find, so I need to get one of those. Got to put the alternator on, got to put the housing for the thermostat and all that stuff on here. Then we got to run the belts. One thing I have done that we didn't record, it was fairly simple, is I installed the muffler, and this is the exhaust and muffler that originally was on here. When I say originally, I mean the original owner, not from the original 1977 Toyota. I'm sure it was in pretty good shape. It had a little bit of surface rust, and so I painted it with some high temperature Rust-Oleum silver, just really not so much for looks, but more just to stop the rust and hinder that. Probably will put a header on here or something like that down the road, but that is the exhaust right now. And one thing I didn't know is that this exhaust comes up over that cross member, or at least I think it does. That seems to be the only way that it seems that it could have mounted I may find out when I put the body on that that's not right, and I need to make an adjustment, but that seems to be the way that it fits. So when the previous owner took it off, he just cut this. So I'm going to have to figure out a way either to get that out of there, get a new muffler, or just weld on a downpipe or something. I may just get a whole new muffler, and I do want to continue it out the back like it's supposed to be. So hopefully when we get the body on here, the frame will be heavy enough to hook up our shocks. They don't reach right now, and I could probably stretch them, but I don't want to go past what they're supposed to go past. So when we get the body on here, it will push this frame down a little bit, and we can go ahead and get those shocks hooked up, which will be nice. And I'm excited about that. I do also know that the transmission cover, the tunnel here, that is has a little bit of rust just on one of the corners. We're going to have to clean up. That's going to be a beast. It's covered with undercoating on the underside, and it's going to take a lot of work to get that thing cleaned up. Probably a good 2 to 3 days, but we'll get that cleaned up, get that painted on the bottom side, and get that installed so that the top of the tub and the outside of the tub is will be in primer. So like I said, we want to paint the underside, get it totally done, so when you look at the FJ40 from the underside, it's going to look done. And that will allow us to turn it back from my garage. Let me back up so you can see. That will allow us to get it to the point where we can turn it and it'll just roll in and out. That'll make it a whole lot easier to work on, to get out here during the day. The sun rises, you can see over here from the back of my shop, and really until about probably noon, it's nice and shady and nice and cool out here in this driveway on the side of my house. And so I'm looking forward to having that tub on the frame. One, because that's a big milestone, that's a big step, but also because it'll be easy to just roll out. And then what we'll do is this will be sealed in epoxy primer, so we can put on a little filler along these weld seams, clean it up, straighten it up a little bit. I'm not going to make this thing into a show car, so I'm not looking to do 5 coats of filler primer and block it all out. And I'm going to do some of that. There's a little bit of, I think there was some surface rust, and over here on this side, you probably can't pick it up on the camera, maybe you can. There's a little bit of surface rust on some of this. Originally there was, and you can see when I ground some of it off, they just kind of painted over that. Again, the original owner that had it before me did not do a good job really sealing this tub until you can get it ready. He said it was ready for paint, but it wasn't anywhere close. But anyways, I will probably do a couple coats of like a filler primer and block it back here, just to take that little bit of that pittedness out. And I think there's a little bit over here too. This tub at one point probably had a little bit of surface rust, so I'll do a little bit of that to clean it up and make it look good. But again, I'm not going to block this whole thing out 3 times and then after we paint it, cut it and buff it and all that. I mean, it is an FJ40, and if you know anything about these FJ40s, they came from Toyota. You could often look down the sides and you can see right here where I welded these spot welds to weld this quarter panel onto the tire well here. And often on brand new FJ40s, they didn't do anything. They didn't put any filler, and you could see the spot welds, the actual spot welds. They may have done a little bit of filler or maybe a little bit of primer sander, but I've seen all original paint ones. You look down the side, you can see where those spot welds were. Same back here on these seams where these quarter panels butt up to this back sill back here, and along here they did not put body filler or panel sealer in there. So the goal is to get this thing on the road and usable and looking pretty good. Not a show car, like I said, not a trailer queen. We're going to drive this thing, we're going to get in the mud, and we're going to take it off road. So it's going to get used, and we just know that's part of it. So once we get it on the frame, then it's going to be the long process of running the wiring harness, I'm going to have to go through that, make sure everything is complete and not hacked into there. We're going to have to do things like the roll bar. We're going to have to clean that up, paint that, the seats, the steering column. I got the steering column over here. I brought it up the other day. I was going to see if I could maybe hook it up and use it to help steer the chassis when we're driving around, but there's no support for it. It's got to be supported by the tub right here. And if I hook it up to the steering box now, it just will fall over. So can't do that. But there will be a ton of little things at that point moving forward, and we'll keep making videos and keep tracking along the way. But again, I really am excited. I feel like getting this thing to the Media Blaster is a huge milestone, and especially once we get the bottom painted and we get the brake lines installed, new body mounts, and get this tub mounted onto that chassis, that's going to be huge. So we'll record it, we'll have it for you. You can join us on along the way in this journey, and be sure to comment down below, like it if you like this video, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Trying to make one video a week and keeping you guys up to date with what's going on and where we are in the progress of this 40. Thanks again for watching, and like I said, if you like this video, give us a like. Turn on notifications if you want to know when we post new videos, usually once a week. And if you want to see more like this, be sure to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We are posting some on there, our progress in between. And just thankful for you guys, and thankful for your support and your encouragement. And thanks again for watching.